Hi, it's Paula. We're here for the Common Book Show. And today we're here with Richard and with James. And James isn't actually in the room with us as usual because he is a world traveler. He's like Marco Polo. He's constantly on the Silk Road. But we're here today, and we are going to start off with Richard because Richard's got a long list, and my brain is fried. So go ahead, Richard.
Bubba Copeland.
He wasn't a composer, was he?
Good. James, does the name Bubba Copeland mean anything to you?
Not at all.
Is
he related to Stuart
is
Copeland?
No.
That's what. Yeah.
He is both a Baptist pastor and the mayor of a small town in Alabama called Smith Station.
Do you know approximately where Smith Station is located?
I could look it up if you like. Would you like me to?
Well, the only reason I'm interested is because I spent some time in Alabama, and I would just like to have a picture of where this might be.
Okay. Smith Station, Alabama. And then we go to maps, and then we project this thing here, and then we start zooming out.
Okay. All right. So, so it's a part of Alabama that I am not. That's I know. I have no. My life did not intersect with that part of Alabama. Okay.
So where were you?
I was in Florence, Alabama, which is north of Birmingham.
Oh. Let's see if we can find where you were.
Well, Birmingham's a big.
There's Birmingham.
So if you go north from north of Birmingham, it is. Let me see.
Wow, there's a town called Warrior.
Yeah, I think it would. It's near. It's near. Wait a minute. It's a very small town, and it's where I went for my archaeological field school. And it is north of Birmingham. It's probably too small to be on that particular map.
Well, we can just look. We can go here and we can look it up.
Florence, Alabama is where it was the closest town.
So where is Birmingham again? Let's see. There's Birmingham.
Yeah.
And then we just have to put this in the center.
It was close to where.
Do you see it?
Well, Watson, Glenville.
Do any of these towns sound familiar to you?
No, I remember there was something. There was Shoal, but I don't remember exactly.
Muscle Shoals.
Muscle Shoals. Yeah, it was near.
You were near Muscle Shoals?
Yeah.
You know what that's famous for?
There's a recording studio there or something, right?
Yeah, that's had like this enormous amount of gold records have come out of this one recording studio.
Yeah. I knew about that, but I didn't get to go there because I was living in a swamp for 8 weeks. But all right, so what is it about this? This guy is from that small town in Alabama.
Yeah, his name is Bubba Copeland.
Yeah.
So he's the pastor, local pastor, and he's the mayor. And they don't actually have a newspaper in Smith Station, so to speak.
Yeah.
They have a website, which, zero overhead, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everybody reads the 1819 website. I don't know why they named it that.
Maybe that's when the town incorporated.
Okay, very possible. And in one of his interviews on 1819, he said, "Around here, we're Mayberry 2023. It's really like everybody knows your name. Everybody dies famous in a small town. That's what it is. It's Friday Night Lights. It's Mama's apple pie. Our community is very, very low crime, very low drug abuse. Our number one problem is suicide."
Oh, so there's no problems except nobody's happy?
It's sad, I think a lot of it has to do with the military. I think some of it has to do with social media and the reality of that. But yeah, that's the number one problem we have in Smith Station. Okay, so they're very right-wing in Smith Station. As you can see, there's Mr. Bubba Copeland, the mayor, meeting with another political celebrity who came to visit.
Ugh. Okay.
So take a look at Mr. Bubba Copeland and fix his image in your mind, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so 1819 gets an anonymous tip. And the anonymous tip is go on Instagram and look up someone by the name of Brittany Blair Summerlin.
So the website which is their newsletter
Yeah,
gets a tip,
yeah.
and it's okay to find. Okay.
Go on Instagram, look up Brittany Blair Summerlin. She has a lot of photos. So they do. And they notice that there is a interesting connection, similarity between Brittany Blair Summerlin and Bubba. So here we have Brittany.
I see. Oh. Okay. This is Brittany.
All right. And if you want me to go back, I'll show you.
Yeah. Okay. So.
And because Brittany has posted so many photos, they think that their mayor is transgender.
Yeah, I find it. I don't see that much resemblance. I could see maybe that being his daughter, but, or a son who is transgender. Were they able to come up with a conclusion?
Well, there were more than just that one photo.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of photos.
Yeah.
Okay. So they presented this to the mayor in their next interview. And the mayor denied it.
Okay.
He said, it's got nothing to do with me. I don't know who that person is, et cetera, et cetera. So they keep digging up more and more photos, and they say to the mayor, we're thinking on publishing these photos in the 1819 website and let the people of our small community, Smith Station, decide if the similarity is coincidence. Finally, Bubba comes clean.
Oh, no.
And Bubba says, all right, I have been dressing up as a woman as a hobby since I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's a release from anxiety. I don't feel like I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. I don't think I need to have any kind of medical procedure done. It's just something I do to release tension. And I noticed that when I had this Instagram account, people were reaching out to me,
Paying attention.
they became my friends.
Yeah.
Now, my wife knows all about it. It's a hobby. It's a stress reliever. And I ask you not to make this public. But now 1819 has a dilemma. What do? We have this information, pastor, mayor, transgender, and secret.
Transgenders posing in sexy photographs. Besides, I mean, it's not just posing as a woman; it's posting sexy, sexualized photographs.
True.
As a
A
pastor.
regular picture the other woman would post on Instagram.
True. In
It's
fact,
doing it for ourselves. This is not sexualizing ourselves. This is not about men. This is just feeling good about yourself.
That's a man, James. That's a man.
Oh. So he can't be posting it to feel good about himself just
Yeah, no,
because.
he can, but he can't be a pastor too. You can do one or the other. You can't do both.
So this is a female privilege.
Yes. It's a as a female pastor, I wouldn't like it either. You know, it's like it's kind of so. How did this finally?
So the dilemma for 1819 News is in their mission statement. They state that they are a religious-oriented news outlet to promote, whose goal is to promote religious values among the citizens of Smith Station. So now they've got a conflict. Like, do we keep this secret or do we let it out?
Yeah. So were the other pictures more sexual than the
Yes.
one? Does this man have actual breasts?
I don't know. Maybe James would know. You want to see the photo, James?
I saw the photo of this person in a bra, and it looked like there were breasts, unless they enhanced it with photography somehow.
Yeah, James, do you think that's photoshopped or that's real?
It's hard to say the way.
It
The
looks
picture.
like there's cleavage, though, right? I mean,
Well,
unless,
there's two things here.
okay.
Any guy who gains a certain amount of weight is going to have some gynecomastia, but there is the possibility of Photoshop. However, the point of the mayor saying I'm just a cross-dresser, it has been my experience that it's like 50-50, rather a cross-dresser crosses over into being transgender or stays just a cross-dresser.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that his wife knows about it, it sounds like they're okay. So, did they come to the conclusion, this newspaper or this,
That it was their religious obligation,
To-
so they posted this article. And they showed the pictures in the article.
Oh, see, with that picture, you can definitely see it. But the other picture, the way the angle
Which
was,
is probably why they led with this.
yeah.
And let's see here. They showed that one, obviously.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Here's Brittany's page. Okay. They have a disclaimer in the story,
Yeah.
you're about to see some bad photos. And and it looks like they censored the photos.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll show you where they are. Oh, this has changed since this afternoon.
Oh, they must have
Yeah.
changed their content, huh?
Yeah. Unless they just made them small, and then you have to. But I think I know why it's changed too. So here's another photo. See?
Uh-huh.
Here's another photo.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, honestly, she looks better as a girl.
That's a frequent situation.
I have to say, I mean, the guy is not as cute as the girl, in my estimation. I don't know. Am I shallow?
how about this? How about this photo?
Yeah. Well, there's a
Now,
lot of.
it almost looks like they used a magic marker on this thing. I can't really tell.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks like it. There's a lot of there's a lot of man boob there, James. That's more man boob than I have girl boob.
Very, because the wife knows, I would say it's very likely that there's already been some hormone things going on here. And I may have even met the mayor at a convention or two.
What? Really?
He looks familiar?
No, I'm saying.
Oh, just you may have, yeah, somehow been in the same room with him or her. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, in my heart of hearts, I feel that, whatever floats his or her boat is okay. But then being judgmental and judging other people for their choices and hoarding lording God over them and making it a sin for other people, how does that how do you talk about that, like in church, is he preaching it's okay if you feel like a woman inside and you want to express yourself? I don't think so. I can't imagine that.
Well, then comes yesterday,
Okay.
and by this time the whole town has seen,
Wow, that town must be buzzing.
and hence we have this story coming out in today's news.
Oh, wow. Oh, shit. And after that whole thing about that's why people kill them, that's what happens, and that's the...
Isn't that prophetic that he talked about suicide in the
Yeah.
interview?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, right, they did... He was playing with fire in that situation. I mean, he's a mayor, but as the mayor, it's one thing. As a mayor, you're not preaching morality. As a preacher, you are. and I mean, is this? I don't think it's immoral. I mean, but I'm not religious. I have to believe that a preacher is preaching, fire and damnation against gender transformations and homosexuality and all of those other things that the people who think they know Jesus are against.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a shame that I don't know who was right and who was wrong, Richard. What's your opinion on this?
He had let's look at it in terms of his options.
Yeah.
So obviously one option is to kill yourself. But wouldn't another option be, I'm going to step down as pastor, I'm going to step down as mayor, and I'm going to try to lead a life, and I'm hoping that my fellow citizens will accept me?
What do you think the chances of that are in a small town like that?
I've never lived in a small town. Now, James, you know more about small towns. You mean like they will
ostracize you? Just like
in what sense? Like if say he goes to a restaurant, do they get up and leave because they don't want to be?
They won't speak to him.
Or they'll snicker and make fun.
They'll make fun of him. They might go to his house and throw tomatoes or, I mean, I can't tell you how many, I mean, I had a lot of men friends in New York City who were gay, a lot.
Yeah.
And they were all from small towns and they all had stories. They had to hide who they were because they would have been, they would have been beaten up. They would have maybe been killed. They had a really, and then once they got to New York, they could live out loud, and it was such a different experience for them. So
he was in a situation where his only salvation would be to move.
Probably to move, yeah. And I mean, that might not have been an option for him. Maybe his wife would. I mean, but that was a radical decision on his part, obviously, to kill himself. But I don't know. Now, how they just found this stuff by accident? They stumbled upon these...
Who knows who put in the tip?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Somebody
Whoever
sent
called
them.
in the tip.
Somebody sent
Yeah.
a tip. Yeah, that person. I don't know. I mean, I don't really believe people should live lives like that. I don't think that that's an appropriate way to live. I
Mhm.
mean, I think it's unfortunate that we live in a world where he felt he had to hide that. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate that somebody was so hateful that they outed him, with that, look at this website.
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate that, I think that the paper had to,
Well, because the paper had to do it because it was bound by its mission statement. We are promoting religious values. So you could say that it's the religious values.
Yes. Okay. That's a good way of looking at it. The religious values are the culprit for the cruelty that was, because there's a lot of people who are living silent lives, where they can't, they don't want to be exposed. And we shouldn't live in a world like that. That shouldn't be the way we are. We should all be allowed to be individuals. But this was a...
Now, if he came to you for advice, what would you advise?
Well, I would ask what was the most important thing. Is it most important that you remain a public official and be in this town? Or is it more important that you be an individual and you do things that make you happy, and then go from there? What's more important? If it was more important for him to be, there are religions where he could have been who he wants to be and still be a pastor. There's different religions that accept homosexuality and gender differences. He could, but he wouldn't have been able to do that there. Or maybe there's enough people in the town who are living similar private lives, the same people that have been killing themselves off.
Yeah, how many of those other suicides that he talked about
were
are
people who
related
had to
to
repress.
public and private?
We had to repress their who they are. I think just the fact that the only problem they have is suicide, that sounds like the only problem they have is repression. I don't think that the suicide thing is not great, but the fact that they feel that their only option is to commit suicide, just like he did, that's a really sad state of affairs.
Yeah.
Well, his life as he knew it was over.
That's true, but
That's right.
but there could have been another
And then,
life
and then what was
that he could imagine outside of the way he was living.
what was the next chapter?
Yeah, it wasn't. There was no chapter. The book was done.
He couldn't see another chapter.
Right. He wanted to live. He obviously was more comfortable living a lie than he was living as himself.
I would say he was more living a double life than living a lie, because he was living both lives.
Yeah, that's true. So he wanted both. You can see in a lot of cases how people do that. They don't want to get a divorce, but they don't want to give up their girlfriend either. They don't want to stop using drugs, but they don't want to stop being a nurse either. There's a lot of people that are doing two things that should be diametrically opposed. So where did you find this story? Was it in the New York Times?
I saw it on Google News,
Oh,
which I find to be excellent for really up-to-the-minute stuff.
yeah.
Because I think they refresh it like every 10 minutes.
Wow.
So it's always things constantly popping up.
Yeah. It's a really tragic story. It's tragic in so many ways that you can't even. James, when somebody is coming to you like you know that they're transitioning.
Yeah. Do they ever, like a bartender, tell you their transition sorrows?
I'm sure they do. They must confide in you because you're one of the few people that would know basically what's going on.
I'm also one of the people that they can tell the truth to because they're not trying to get me to write a letter saying that they're okay and there's nothing wrong with them and they have no problems.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, do they ever ask you for advice on how to break it to their loved ones or anything like that?
They do, and we talk about lots of various and sundry subjects
I mean,
about trans.
yeah, obviously not without revealing anyone's identity. I mean, I wouldn't want you to do that. But is there anything interesting that comes to mind?
Well, one story that you might find interesting is a particular person. There's a thing in the community called deep stealth, which is you plan to transition and live your life in such a way that nobody knows that you ever transition. And this is something that's very controversial within the community because it's left to people to try to explain that it's not a good policy. I mean, you may want to present deep stealth within the public, but it's not something to extend to your private life. So, for instance, I had one particular person who transitioned early in life and therefore did not have to deal with 20 years worth of testosterone creating a Captain America jaw. And my work, of course, made it so that this person had beautiful hair-free skin.
Yeah.
So we're discussing life, and I'm told, oh, Buffalo's just my transition city. I'm going to get my degree, get my hair removal done, complete my surgery, and then I'm going to move to another place where nobody knows me except for as me, and I'll just live my life as if I were always born this way.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, fine, but obviously you plan on telling the person that you might marry your story and of your background. And this person said to me, oh no, I'm never telling anybody, and I don't have to tell because nobody is going to know the difference. I'll just tell them that, you know, I'm infertile and we have to adopt. And I'm like, okay, fine, but are you never going to visit family ever again, and you're not going to take your husband and your family? And I'm like, and I'm told, well, that's crazy. Of course we're gonna, you know, live like normal people and go back home for holidays and whatnot. And I said, and you don't think that your grandmother around the Christmas table isn't going to say, so how did you meet our Bruce?
Yeah, you know, it's asking a lot, especially
to this person. It was just like, you know, wow. I guess you got a point there.
Because the thing is, you're asking a lot of, especially older people, not to reveal your secret. I could see if you decide, yes, no, I'm never going to see my family. But you know what, James? Now, I don't want to get graphic, and I don't know if you've ever seen anything. I mean, you probably have, knowing you. But could they possibly be can the surgeons possibly be so exact to make the body part. Does this vagina look like a vagina is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you would know that, James.
I mean, I don't know if he knows that. I mean,
Oh, sure, that's one of his jobs.
oh yeah, because you gotta. That's right. You're.
He has to take, in other words, when they fold it over in the operation, you don't want hairs on the inside.
Well, this is good. This conversation becoming a little. Right, you don't. But so you have seen the. Could it would it fool somebody who had seen one before, James?
Depending on the skill of the surgeon and the amount of time post-op, it is very possible that not even your gynecologist would know the difference.
Wow. See, I did not know that.
Holy.
You would
moly.
just appear to be a woman who had a hysterectomy.
Okay.
There you go.
That's interesting because I never. It's a thought that's never actually crossed my mind before. Thank you for opening up my mind to all these interesting options. Yeah, so there, it's a possibility, I suppose. I think, but they'd never be able to go home again. They'd have to cut off all connections with the people from their lives before. They'd have to say they were an orphan and they were raised in an orphanage, right?
That's one option. Unfortunately, a very large number of trans people are disowned by their family anyway, so there is no home to go home to.
Really, that's quite awful. That's an awful thought. Well, I don't know. Let me think. Being disowned by my family. Wait a minute.
Well, it depends.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
On a serious note, it's one of the reasons why I have over the years housed a number of transgender persons because they end up homeless because they lose their jobs, they lose their families, they lose their place to stay.
Nobody would ever make this decision without really feeling it. I mean, it's really a part of them. So I say the same thing about homosexuality, right? That you wouldn't make a decision to be a homosexual because people who don't know any better say, "Oh, it's a lifestyle choice." No, it's not. It's not a lifestyle choice. It's
not like deciding to wear all black for the rest of your life.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I mean, although I'm fascinated and freaked out right now, I'm going to change the subject dramatically to the one thing I want to talk about today, which is this book. It's by David Graeber and David Wenger. I don't know. I don't have to see the whole name up there. Oh, wait a minute. Wengro. Okay. This book is called The Dawn of Everything, and it's a new history of humanity. And the one thing I was listening to today, it's a long book to listen to on audiobook. It's 24 hours, so it's a lot. But the one thing they were talking about today is the Teotihuacan civilization, the Toltec, I guess it's Toltec, in Mexico, and that site had been abandoned thousands of years ago. And the thing about it is there's a lot of evidence that it may have started off as a kingship and with a lot of cruelty and a lot of human sacrifice and things like that, but somehow something happened, and they don't know if it was a revolution or if something else happened, and it changed to not egalitarian really, but more of a republic. And now they're finding these things in the archaeological record, but there's also a book that was written in the 17th century by a man, a Spaniard, who had gone to that area and was doing research, and he found that they were without a king, that the civilization, the Toltec civilization that was surviving was without a king, and that they were living in a republican manner. And this has been rejected and denied for centuries because of this Western European idea that they were not civilized or they weren't advanced enough to be able to have a civilization like that and have it work. So this guy is kind of changing all of the ideas about how civilization began, because there is a hierarchy. It's like, okay, hunters and gatherers, and then they discovered agriculture, and they don't even want to say that women discovered it, but the women were the gatherers, but the men discovered agriculture while they were hunting, apparently. So so there's hunters and gatherers, and then it goes into bigger societies because there's more people, because they're feeding them with the crops, and then it starts developing into these hierarchies, where there's priests and kings and everything else. But there's all this variation that they're finding, that there's some places in Yugoslavia, I think he said, I'm not 100% sure, where they've got these Bronze Age peoples that are living in these. They're finding that there was a society that was not a hierarchical society, that they had all of these individual homesteads, and the people were all living in everybody that lived there was living in a similar situation. So there was no like king with a big structure there, and everybody else was just, everybody had their own artifacts. Everybody was making their own artifacts. There were different kinds of things found in each structure. And we are so bound to this idea, just like at one time we were bound to the idea that the world was flat. Before discovering that the world was round, we had to convince people that the world was not flat and you weren't going to fall off the end of the earth. Mm-hmm. So he is trying to rewrite this history of how civilization happened, and his argument is that no, it didn't all happen the same way in each place. It happened differently in different places. And it was so much more of a imaginative that these people that were creating these societies did not have a template to follow, and so they were creating something new and fresh from the beginning without having necessarily a hierarchy in their society. So there were these things that we might consider communes, mm-hmm. or the idealized communistic system that were going on and were successful, for hundreds of years, because, of course, every civilization fails after a while, mm-hmm. just like we are right now. Mm. And anyway, I just find it fascinating that he's found all this evidence to support these individual developments of civilization in different places in different ways, that it wasn't all by the book. Like we act like there's a pattern. We act like there's only one pattern. Like like if you're going to write, like in the Greek tragedies, you have to write it this way and this way and this way. You can't write it any other way. Yeah. But that was just somebody made that up, just like.
In other words, what you're saying is like there's a formula to a Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
And then you follow the formula.
Yeah, right. So there is no formula for civilization. Civilization developed differently in different places at different times. And it's fascinating because the more I listen to this book, the more it makes sense to me. Like, how would someone in Mongolia and someone in the central part of Africa, why would they develop in the same way?
Mm-hmm.
They would come up with their own system, which is exactly what was happening. So it's just way more complicated and way more interesting than the historians and archaeologists and people with prehistory want us to believe. And that's my that's what I'm offering up today, because that's where my crazy reading has taken me. I love the idea that there's more ways of being, and I know we've talked about how, and last time we did the show, I told you about that one Native American who was so wise that it turns out that something that an interview that he did may have triggered the Enlightenment. I mean, these are ideas that are like so disruptive. I like disruptive ideas. I think disruptive ideas are important. Okay, so that was he also was talking about how there was a 100-year-old guy, according to the book that he was translating and reading. There was this 100-year-old guy who said, don't let the Spaniards come in. They're animals, and they're going to destroy us. He said, what you can do is, we're going to get this one officer to take a fall. We're going to let him attack the Spaniards. And if he loses, we're going to say that he was a rebel and that he attacked on his own, and then we'll make a deal with them. But let's try first to defeat them before we bring them in. I mean, these are strategies that you would attribute to Roman generals, and so we've way underestimated all these peoples and all these in Mesoamerica and the people that had populated this part of the world, So I like that. I like finding out these new things. Okay, that was it. I'm done. What's your next thing, Richard?
James, do you have anything you want to discuss?
I didn't even know I'd be on the show tonight, so no.
Okay.
Yeah, Harry is lazing around in his luxury hotel.
I love people who can say a lot in a few words, which is why I like cartoons.
Yeah.
Because every so often, I find that exactly. I find
Yeah.
a cartoon that says a lot with very little. I came across this cartoon that requires interpretation.
Okay.
Would you give me yours?
Sure. Oh, wow. Here he is with all these ladders, going about things in a really circuitous, unthoughtful way. Instead of taking one ladder and setting it up and looking over the wall, he takes a whole pile of ladders and climbs up to the top of them. That's just it shows a lack of critical thinking. What do you think it means?
How about you, James? What's your interpretation?
If you don't know what a ladder is, you don't know how to use it.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that. That's great.
Yeah. Well, my interpretation was that sometimes in life you're confronted with a problem. In this cartoon, this person is, his problem is represented by the wall.
Right.
So he's trying to overcome the wall. And he has this supply of ladders, like James said, if you don't know what it is, right?
Yeah.
The easiest solution would be to take one ladder, stand it up against the wall, climb up and get over the wall, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't occur to the person. And it made me question in my own life, when I was faced with a problem or something I had to overcome, how often was the solution at hand and I just didn't think about it? So, for example, I was putting up drywall once in a room. And we're putting, drywall. And we got one piece left, but we got 2 squares. And I said to the person helping me, Tom Nemo, I said, we got to go to the store and we got to pick up another sheet. And he studies and he goes, I don't think so. He said, I think we have enough. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we're going up to the peak and we have 2 right triangles. Let's take the sheet that's left and cut it diagonally, and we'll have 2 right triangles.
And did that work?
It did.
Wow.
And it taught me a lesson that is exemplified with this cartoon. We had everything we needed to solve the problem, but it just didn't occur to me.
Yeah, and and everyone has a different level of spatial imagination.
Yeah.
Like when I would take intelligence tests or whatever in school, I would find certain things like that difficult. So I think everybody has got strengths and weaknesses for figuring out different things, and maybe his because he was an artist too, so he was a very visual person. So when he looked at that, he could see the visual angles in it without actually having to do it. And so you're more of a sound and word person, and so if there was some kind of a problem that involved sound or words or photography, you could have probably solved that quicker than he could have. So I think that's where it's good working in teams or working in pairs like that, because everybody brings something else to the table, and that's what diversity is supposed to be doing for us. But some people don't see that those different points of view matter.
Right. So that's why when somebody says, what's going on in your life, it's a good idea to tell them this problem you're working on, because you never know.
Yeah.
They might see the solution that you don't.
Yeah, that's true. And I can't tell you how many times that, just like you said, just talking about the problem, and somebody will say, what about this? And then you say, oh, I never thought of that.
So, James, did you hear the story of the post office stealing something from me?
No.
So
Those bastards.
So the post office, I went on eBay and I found this phone that I wanted, and somebody was selling it who was like a novice. And he didn't know the ins and outs of how to advertise it, et cetera, et cetera. So I got a really good price and I bought the phone from this person. And then the phone arrived in the mail, and I was kind of shocked with what I found. And that was that the box had been opened and it was being held by a rubber band, and that there was nothing in it. And so I did what we were just suggesting. I asked my friends, I said, well, what do you think happened here? What do you think exactly went on? Like, why did somebody know that there was a phone in here? And then Paula pointed out, she said, well, look at the box. She said, the weight is on the postage thing, and it's 13.1 ounces.
Yeah.
So, I weighed the box and it was less than an ounce, which means when the post office took it in, the phone was in there.
Yeah.
But then Paula pointed out, look at the sticker that they put on the box. Hazmat, surface only. Namely, there's a lithium battery in a device that's being shipped. Okay? So I pointed this out to the police officer, because eBay said, you got to get the police involved. And if you do, send us the report and then we'll give you a refund. And all that took place, and they did. In fact, the police officer when he was over here, he said, "Do you have a doorbell video thing?" And then Tom Windsor, he looked up the video, and you can see in the video where the postman is delivering the box that has been
Opened
with a rubber
band.
band. Yeah. So
he solved another part of the problem. He solved the visual part of the problem.
very true. Very true. But so then now I was back to square one. So then I went online and I had to search and search and search, and finally I found another identical thing at a very good price, sold by what is called a trusted a top seller.
Yeah, top seller.
Yeah, who had sold over 1,000 phones.
Mm-hmm.
Notice how different their package was. They just took the phone, they put it in a plastic thing. Nothing about
just as fragile, nothing else.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything telegraphing what's inside.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, they printed that label off their home computer.
Yeah.
That's what I do when I ship things out, because you get a discount through eBay to send information to print off your label at home, and then I just tape it to the box.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he did it from home. He didn't go to the post office and explain what was in it. Nobody asked him the question about, is there anything blah 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 in this box?
Yeah, because James, I did contact the first seller, and I said, "Tell me how that you think this came about." And he said, "I don't know. I went to the post office. I showed them my box. They said, 'What's in it?' I said, 'A phone.' They said, 'We got to put this sticker on there.'"
And the guy that took it, that was probably the same guy.
Well, this is what I told the police officer. I said, if the post office is really worth its salt and the cops contact them, they will look at every single person who handled it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
because this doesn't seem to be like a insolvable case.
No, right. It is. There's only going to be a certain number of people who handle that package.
Now, isn't there a way that you could contact Google and say, "Can we call that phone," or no? Or can we ping it?
They may.
Maybe Mr. Windsor would know. Can that phone be pinged?
If they know the serial number, they can have it blacklisted.
Oh.
Whoa.
Another twist to the story.
So the person who is the current owner, it would get cut off.
Wow. That would be...
That would be justice.
Do you or the previous owner have that serial number?
I didn't. I've been communicating with the previous owner, but I haven't gone into that depth.
Yeah, and you should ask him. You should say, "Let's get this guy or person." Doesn't have to be a guy. I wasn't being sexist, James. Is what I'm trying to say.
James, do you have any? Do you have any
opportunity blamer?
Since you're on the air with us here, James, do you have any unfair woman stories to tell us?
It seems to be your specialty.
Well, see, Richard and I already discussed the situation where the baseball player was false accused, spent 3 years living and working in Japan, because even though the prosecution had exculpatory evidence, they did not exculpate him. And now, though he has fought to prove his innocence successfully, the lying ass woman is getting $300,000 from his insurance company.
So there's no lying ass men?
Paula, are there any lying ass women is the question.
No, both sides. There's lying ass men
Paula,
and women.
Does anybody dispute that there are lying ass women?
I don't.
So, the question is, are there any lying ass women? Because that's your fucking dispute, Paula.
Well, no, I think there are definitely lying ass women. I'm not disputing that. I know some of them are personal friends.
Well, then why do you give pushback when I say?
Because I enjoy it.
$300,000 for making a man's life miserable.
No, it was a bad thing to do. Nobody should do that. But then, I mean, it's not. It's if that was the you see, it was the wrong thing to do. If she's a low person, she's a low lying person, and that's not a good thing. If there was truly evidence that it didn't happen, then the judge should have ruled in his favor. I believe.
This is the problem. Our system is designed such that the accusation is the prosecution, because the prosecutor has absolutely zero incentive to find you innocent. He has more incentive to find you guilty and get a conviction rather than to say, oh, look at this. We have a live stream video that she tweeted out from your bed while you were still sleeping that proves that you didn't do the stuff that she said that you did. I guess we'll let go.
That is not fair and equitable treatment. And I agree with you. I'm not arguing with you. I think that was a problem. I don't think that if they had that kind of evidence, they should have ruled in his favor. I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Thank you.
Anytime, James. I don't agree with you all the time, but I agree with you now. I think I do know that women can lie and say terrible things, but I mean, I think that all human beings, there's ethics and morals are kind of, I don't know what's happening. I mean, honesty is at a premium, and I don't get it, because it's so much easier to be honest than it is to be, to lie, because lying, you have to keep track. Who did I lie to? What did I say? If you're telling the truth, you don't have to do any of that.
Now, I did contact James, and I asked his opinion on this news item. Should she have apologized?
No.
Who is Emily Hampshire? Is she just a person?
She's from a TV show called Schitt's Creek.
Oh, okay. And she dressed as
Johnny Depp for her Halloween costume, and social media attacked her for it.
For what?
Do you have any idea why, James, she was attacked on social media for dressing up as Johnny Depp?
Was there poop involved?
I don't know what the context of that would be. If she was dressing to say Johnny is a scary personality, then yeah, she probably owes the guy an apology. If she was just dressing because
if she was just dressing to be him,
guy,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, a lot of people dressed like Barbie. Are they supposed to apologize to whoever? What's that woman's name that played Barbie?
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie. Are they supposed to apologize to her? I don't get that.
I text Richard, if you can pull that up. It's a cartoon.
Oh, we only got 2 minutes left.
We got 2 minutes here.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad that you phoned in, James. It was a pleasure as usual.
Well, I got lucky. I finished work early.
Well, good. I'm glad. And are you returning home, or are you working still tomorrow?
More work tomorrow.
Well, that's good. You know what the reward for good work is?
I get to spend more money on my mom.
No, the reward for good work is more work. That is true. That is true. Even if it's sad, it's still true.
Oh, what she did is she had a partner with her.
So
she was sort of dramatizing
the trial thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it was a little tasteless, but I don't know about having to apologize. It was tasteless.
Do you agree, James?
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
like I said, I don't think it deserves an apology, but it was tasteless. So that's about it. So, okay, looks like we're winding down. Thank you all for being here. Oh, I forgot to mention, my son Tom is on drums, You did hear his voice today. He was on briefly. So thank you for attending if you did, and if you didn't, then you don't know what I'm talking about. So it doesn't matter. I'm just rambling on until the 24, 3, 2, 1 seconds. I'm so professional. It's kind of sad, but yeah. So we'll be back in a couple weeks. I guess Greg's going to be doing something next week, but we'll see you in 2 weeks. 4, 3, 2, 1.